All right, everyone, welcome back for another episode of A Desire to Inspire. Very, very cool situation today that's popped up in my life. I have the great pleasure and honor of welcoming Mr. Reid to the show.
I love that guy.
The guy's awesome.
I hear he's fantastic.
What makes it even more awesome is the fact that we still are getting acquainted, and I've heard so many great things about you. Your work speaks for itself. We're going to get on to all that amazing stuff. Well, let's start this off by having you tell us, who is Reid in your own words, and where did this journey begin for you?
You know, I love one of these things when people say, here comes a guy that needs no introduction, so here's his introduction. So that's basically who I am. Probably the most unpopular, unfamous guy in the world who's written a book. So been published in, I think, 50 some odd books, 45 languages, been in 5 motion pictures, and blah, 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 blah. So the short little thing is that I live in San Diego, California. I'm an author, speaker, filmmaker, and dad, which is my #1 claim to fame.
Right.
And enjoy my life, traveling the world, meeting the most powerful and influential human beings. And then I tell their story and share it with the masses. So what a blessing, greatest gig in the world that I got. And by the way, I see your little letters back there. What is it, MVP? Or
MPV.
What does that mean?
Those are my initials, Manny Patrick Vargas.
Check this one out. This is kind of cool. This one says, you can't see this one? PMA?
PMA, I like that. What does it stand for?
Yeah. So check positive mental attitude. So
that's the best.
From the Napoleon Hill Foundation, the president of the Napoleon Hill Foundation mailed me this. He has these things made and he writes little love notes on the back of it. How cool is that? So I always keep that as a reminder because, you know, it's one of the greatest things. It says you cannot get the desired results with a positive attitude, but a negative one will. Meaning that, you know, it sure beats the alternative.
Sure. So let's bring up some of your work up to this point. And I did a lot of homework and research on the books that you've written and what you're involved in today, and it's magnificent. And I want to acknowledge you for your contribution to the masses and to the folks that are fans of yours and who have bought your work. And I'm very aware of the books, and I have yet to go to the conferences. So in the future, I look forward to being able to meet you in that capacity. But because thoughts are things, and that's one of your books that you co-wrote with Bob Proctor, and you talk about positive mental attitude, let's dive in on mental attitude. And I like, yep, there it is right there. There it is. So what are some of the challenges that we face with our thoughts and our thinking process that really prevent us from getting from where we are to where we want to go?
Well, it's interesting. So when Bob Proctor and I did this book together, we interviewed everyone from the inventor of JetBlue Airlines to the creator of holistic medicine to Holocaust survivors that were interviewed for Schindler's List to find out how thoughts become things. And we realized that thoughts are not things. It's thoughts backed by action become things. That's a reality. If thoughts were things, I'd be a slice of pizza because I'm hungry right now. So thoughts are not things. But once we're done with this interview and I get in my car and drive to Luigi's and get a slice of pizza, my thoughts backed by the actions become my realities. And so I think it's a very important thing that when the law of attraction, people don't talk about the action behind the attraction. And the word action is in attraction. And it's the action behind the attraction that makes our dreams come true. You got to think it, feel it, but ultimately you got to get off your backside and you actually got to do it.
And do you think that's why there's a stigma with the law of attraction with the folks that have tried it and tried to do affirmations and manifest these ideas into their life, and then they come back and say, well, it didn't work for me?
Well, it actually did work for them, but people don't understand the way it truly is set up, the laws of the universe. It's not some motivational guy writing a book. It's a law. And the way it is that you do not attract what you want. You only attract more of who you already are, the end. And people don't understand that. So negative, crappy people that have drama in their life attract more crappy, evil, angry drama people in their life. And they go, but it didn't work because I put a sticker of a happy person up on my thing. Well, you just attracted more of what you already are. That's why you've ever met someone who might not be as smart as you and have more success in you is because they attract that. Or someone's not as good as looking as you and have a better looking spouse because they attract that. We attract more of who we truly are. It's been said, you know, I'm sure you heard the cliche 1,000 times, but if you had a guitar in the corner and a playing the piano and kept hitting the D chord, eventually the guitar will pick up that D chord and start playing it without touching it, because everything resonates at that same vibration. So that's the harsh reality. If we don't like the things going in our life, we got to stop and go, holy crap, what am I putting out? Because that's what's playing on the, the instrument right next to me.
Right. So let me ask you this question. When was your first introduction to the law of attraction and thoughts or things on this journey of yours? And what made you really want to start to take control of your own thought process and work on it from that direction forward?
Yeah, I think it's all a journey. First of all, it's progress, not perfection. So, no one's ever there, it's all a journey. Everything that I've written about in my 50 some odd books that have been published in, I almost disagree with everything I've ever written today. And it's interesting because it's a progress. So, it's progressive journey. That's what I'm going through myself. I'd be a horrible politician because I have flip-flopped like crazy, because as soon as I believe something to be true, if something else proves evident to be otherwise, I'll adapt that philosophy because it makes most sense. That's what the part of personal growth is. You're growing and expanding. So I've been doing this journey my entire life. But it's funny, for 20 years, I don't share this story very often because no one ever asks, but I was in advertising and I owned a telemarketing phone room, believe it or not. And we sold CPS, cheap plastic stuff like imprinted pens and keychains to small businesses. And I would always have these, cool quotes, and I do these pep talks every day, and no one really paid attention. And then finally I sold that business for my first 7-figure big deal in my 30s. And everyone said, well, how did you make so much money in that industry? And I said, well, I read these books and I listened to these tapes and I went to these events. And that's how this journey began, by just sharing the journey rather than what people should do. I just shared what I did.
And so who's been the most influential person in your life on this journey?
This guy right here. It's funny. He always overlooks me here. His name's Charlie Tremendous Jones. Okay. And Charlie Tremendous Jones is a motivational legend. Everyone should look him up. And he had a quote. He says that you are the same today as you'll be in 5 years, except for two things: the people you meet and the books you read. It's who you hang out with. It's what you put in your head that determines your character as a person. In high school, if you hang around smokers, you're a smoker. Jocks are a jock. Same thing applies today. Law of attraction. If we are people that complain, gripe, and moan, that's our conversation. If you hung around me and my friends, it'd be impossible for you to have that attitude because, one, we wouldn't accept you. And two, if we did, we'd kick that out of you because we don't want that in our own sphere to go into our brains. It's interesting. If someone walked into your house with a trash bag full of dirty diapers and rotten cheese and started dumping it and say, stop, get out of here. Yet for some reason, we'll sit and let people dump crap into our brains all day and take it. It makes no logical sense to me.
So if I'm aware that I have a bad circle of influence, my sphere is clearly, they're in the dumps, they're in the gutters, they're talking. I mean, that's a conversation, and I've been here, and I know this because I've lived this myself, where I've been that guy, and you're always part of the victimized story, and nothing positive ever flowing out of your mouth. How do you take a step back and separate yourself from that group confidently without thinking that you're giving up a part of your life, and deciding that, okay, this is better for me, and I'm on a new path, and I will end up where I need to be?
Well, first of all, you give up part of your life. That's the answer. Look, I still go golfing and play poker with a lot of my friends from my old life. However, I'm not going to talk to them about my goals and dreams and what I'm working on because they wouldn't understand. Wow. On the same note, I have a mastermind group, and the people I hang around that are uplifting me, and those are the people I share my goals and dreams. So what I did, I won't tell you what you should do. I'll just say what I did. I followed the actions that everyone told me I should do. So I created my own mastermind group. Nothing was out there that I wanted. So I created it. And I asked people to join my board, where every 2 months we fly in from all around the world. And, I'll name drop you a little bit just so you can understand the power of this. So on my mastermind group of guys, it's the founder of the Make-A-Wish Foundation. It's the inventor of UGG boots. It's the inventor of the board game Pictionary, or Oscar-winning producers. So it's some of the top world thought leaders. And we come together as guys where we don't have vested interest in each other's business except to help one another. And so my brain going, I think I'm a smart guy, but boy, you put another 10 people of that caliber looking back at you and say, here's my challenge. And then you shut up and let them give you feedback where you just say, thank you, thank you, thank you, and accept it and keep what works for you. Right. That's where the miracle happens. And unfortunately, we don't have too many of those organizations out there for people to do that. But if there's one life-changing thing I can say is change your mastermind, your association, your life will change accordingly.
So funny, because it was about 14 months ago that I got sober. My life has always been one big, huge party full of alcoholism, gambling, drugs here in Las Vegas.
Sounds like fun to me.
It sounds like fun. Well, listen, it was a journey, right? And it got me to this point today. 14 months ago, I was sitting in a meeting with a guy who had success that I wanted. And he told me that I need to do X, Y, and Z. And sure, there I was, freshly off of making a decision to stop drinking. I was 3 days into it. And I was out with curiosity, and I was out to challenge myself. And he told me to do several things. And I literally went home and did them that night, that week, and the 2 weeks after that, in a month. And everything just started to unfold. And naturally, I started to pick up new things here and there, and I became more curious, and then it led to this, and then it led to this. And all of a sudden, I was weeding out bad people because I learned through just being curious and doing homework and research that if I wanted to be the guy that I thought I could be, then I had to stop hanging out with those people. And my life was obvious because I lived that life. And now I'm here today meeting with you and having podcast interviews with guys who are very influential in their respective industries. And I can say personally that journey is, you couldn't have said it any better. I think I did some homework on you, and you said seek counsel versus opinions, right? Is that how you say it?
Exactly. And by the way, congratulations on your journey as well. Next week will be 29 years for me.
Wow.
I know. Pretty crazy, right? I mean, 29 years. And it was interesting because, and put a pen in the counsel and opinion, because we got to come back to that. But I'll give you the greatest. People always ask how I stayed sober that long. And here's my answer. I checked myself in one of these little rehab things when I was 24 years old. And everyone kept telling me what to do. I had a bumper sticker in my car and do a chant, get a sponsor. And I didn't want to do all that stuff. I drove a Ferrari. I didn't want to put a bumper sticker on it. I didn't want to do certain things. And I was going to leave. And this guy says, come down here. And there's a sand volleyball court. And he taught me something called hand in the sand. And this changed my life for everything I've done. And he said, grab a handful of sand. And he goes, look, when people give you an input, it's not to mess you up. It's just coming from their direct. That's all they know. So instead of saying, yeah, but, and arguing it, say, thank you very much. And if it works for you, you keep it in your palm. If not, you let it slip through your finger. So someone says, put a bumper sticker in your car. You say, well, thank you very much. Well, that doesn't work for me, so I'll let it slip through. Get a sponsor. Well, that makes sense. He says, do this. And as you close your hand, those grains become your program. That's what works for you. And that's how I've applied my life towards business, relationships, raising my kid, every single thing. That one little thing impacted my life more than anything else in this world, all based from hand in the sand. So it goes back to counsel versus opinion. One of the people I've interviewed, for people that don't know my backstory, here's the short little version. If anyone's ever heard of a book called Think and Grow Rich, the classic Bible of personal development, in 1908, Napoleon Hill was given a letter by Andrew Carnegie to go meet all the most powerful, influential people and wrote Think and Grow Rich. 100 years later to the date in 2008, the president, surviving family, and Napoleon Hill Foundation wrote a very similar letter that Carnegie wrote to Hill and gifted it to me. And basically, I got a Willy Wonka ticket to travel the world to meet the most powerful people and tell their stories. That's it. That's what I do. And through the journey, I got to sit down with a gentleman who invented string theory. I mean, the string theory. I mean, if you ever watch The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon's always working on it. And I asked him, I says, what's the difference between people who are successful and those who are not? And here's his answer. He said, successful people seek counsel where failures listen to opinion. I said, what's the difference? He goes, opinion is based on ignorance, lack of knowledge, inexperience, like all your family friends who've never done it. Counsel is based on wisdom, knowledge, mentorship. People paved the way. So if you go to a family friend and tell them you're going to write a book, they're going to tell you every reason you can't do it because you got a D in English. If you go to Mark Victor Hansen, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, he'll say, before you get started, here's what you need to know and give you counsel based on wisdom, knowledge, mentorship. John Schwartz said, if we would spend our activity only seeking counsel and ignoring opinion, that's the day your life would change.
Such a great point, too. So the idea of finding a mentor, we can find that through books. We can find that through audio programs. What if I'm out there and I'm thinking that I need to find an in-person mentor? What could you suggest for somebody who's out and about trying to find, I would like to say, a role model in their life that they could model and that could offer up that type of advice and that mentorship. Is there a way to get to influencers in a respective industry to really prove to them that you're worth their time? Is there a strategy to that, would you say, in all your years in working in personal development?
Yeah, you just asked me like 4 things at one time just now. So it's interesting. So one, the importance of having a mentor is amazing. But understand this. One, you should have multiple mentors. So for example, I got a great tennis mentor who teaches me my backhand, but I'm not going to ask him my financial advice. My financial mentor, I'm not going to ask about my love life. So I understand this. Surround yourself with people that are getting the results you want. That's how you find a mentor. So what I did is when I wanted to write a book, again, I got a D in English. So I went to Barnes & Noble. I bought every best-selling book. I called those authors up. I didn't ask for people who wrote books. I went to people who sold books. I'm going to say it again. I never went to people who wrote books. I went to people who sold books. People are getting the results I want. I went to them and said, will you teach me? They did. Here we are 50 some odd books later. When I want to be a public speaker, I didn't go to the guys' cars getting repoed or selling their BS from stage. I went to Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Dennis Whaley, Charlie at the best, and said, will you teach me? And now I just hit Entrepreneurs Magazine's top 10 speakers in the world. The whole concept is if you surround yourself with people that are getting the results you want, you start getting for yourself. A few years ago, I went to Africa and climbed and summited Mount Kilimanjaro. And people said, how'd you go from the beaches of San Diego to the roof of Africa? I didn't ask a surfer to take me there. I found a Sherpa that had climbed it 8, 9, 10,000 times. And wherever they put their boot print, I put my boot print. I just followed successful actions of others. Right. And we can do that in anything and everything in our life to have the results for ourselves.
There's a video that I love watching that your buddy Bob Proctor does. It's on vision and purpose. And in fact, it's something I put in my book as well about if it's been done, then you can do it. And I use the 2 folks that climbed the famous mountain. I can't think of off the top of my head right now, in Nepal.
Everest.
Yes, exactly. Sir Edmund Hillary and Norgay. And before they did it, nobody had done it, and they did it, and it paved the way for thousands of people to follow that. So how am I, if I'm listening here and I'm having trouble and I'm stuck in my own thoughts, how do I change my thought process? How do I change my thinking?
It's interesting. I disagree with your statement. So it's funny because I'm the most probably motivational speaker in the world, because I don't believe that if someone else did it, I could do it too. I think that's a bunch of crap. So just because, you watch Michael Jordan, he goes, yeah, all I do is I run down the court, I jump in the air, I stick my tongue out, I spin around and dunk it. Doesn't mean I can do it. No matter what. I'm 5'7", old, short, bald, white guy. It's not going to happen. I mean, logically, right? So I think that's a challenging message that we tell to people. That's why people get frustrated and quit, is because of that non-truth, at least from my standpoint. So I believe is that we work our strengths and we hire our weaknesses. Right. So for example, I'm a great storyteller, but I'm a horrible writer. And people don't understand this, but it's like Santa Claus. I'm going to share a little secret. An author is the person whose name goes on the book, and a writer is the person who wrote the book. It's like Katy Perry, you hear her sing Firework. Doesn't mean necessarily she wrote that song, but she's the author of that song. So the whole concept is that, I can take my talents of being a wordsmith, but then I hire a ghostwriter, copy editors to take it and make it magical so people would want to read it. Does that make sense? Sure. So I understand the power of working our strengths and hiring our weaknesses. Right. So a lot of people that spend all their days working on their weaknesses, God, it just seems like such a waste where they could have been applying their talents and their gifts and making a fortune and impacting the world. So I just have a little bit different viewpoint than most people, but that's where I come from.
No, I see what you're saying. It's the bird that knows itself best is the one that does well. And it's a self-awareness skill, right? It's actually tuning into who you are and accepting the fact that you might be Muggsy Bogues in the NBA and you have to work in. I mean, you could be a good NBA player, but you might not be LeBron James and be the phenom of the world.
Well, that's true. And, what's interesting about that is, sometimes the people that are making the biggest impact, I'm doing a job right now, which is one of the greatest, I don't even know the word. I feel like I've been in training my whole life to do what I'm doing right this second. Right. So I'm writing a book called Wealth Hack. And I'm traveling the world to meet people worth $100 million to $1 billion, and that's it. And I'm cracking their code for prosperity. And the people that are the biggest billionaires, I'm not talking about the showboats that you see in the news and the media. I'm talking about the people that are just the billionaire next door, the majority of all the multi-millionaire billionaire guys. They aren't the LeBron James. They're the people that created, the magic. They weren't the showman or what have you. And I'm seeing a common denominator over and over and over about this thing. It's funny. I just, there's an old saying that says, many receive good advice, but few profit from it. I just got done sitting down with this guy. He's worth multi-billions. And I haven't shared this, by the way, but I think this is it. It's like a virgin thing.
Yes.
I'm even thinking, do I share this? But it was interesting. So I was sitting down with a multi-billionaire just recently. And I went to him and I said, why are you a billionaire and I'm not? And he says, because you believe the lies that you tell. And I stopped and went, fair enough. I go, teach me. And he says, you and all these infomercial guys and everyone in your space says, go find your passion and the money will follow. I go, yeah. And he goes, that's why you fail so bad. I said, wow. And he says, look, he goes, 90% of businesses that fail the first year, everyone knows the statistics of starting a business. They don't fail because of the business acumen or the money or the industry or whatever. He goes, it's because of that lie. He goes, because they hold on to it like it's their baby, so they go down with the ship. He goes, a good entrepreneur doesn't think that way. He says, we're like a game of Frogger. We're riding one log until it starts going underwater. We jump off to the next log, driving by. We don't get caught up into it. He goes, as soon as you're emotionally so vested, you'll never see things clearly. And he goes, until you understand that concept, he goes, you'll get rich following your passion, but you'll never be wealthy. And he goes, it's very important to see the difference of it. And he goes, until you understand that point of view, he goes, you'll enjoy your space. He goes, but you'll never play in the big leagues.
So
I know.
Does that mean, though, that you don't have a heart in terms of what you're saying? Like, how do you separate yourself from like being passionate and invested with heart and soul, but also knowing you've got to make quick moves and jumps? Do you understand what I'm kind of going with that question a little bit?
And that's why I'm having to challenge myself.
Okay.
Yeah. You're seeing it in real time. That's what I'm saying. Is it because again, that all great stuff, whatever that heart and soul malarkey, whatever you want to call it, these guys, you know what he said to me? He goes, do you think the Rockefellers or, all these, the DuPonts or whatever were really passionate about shale oil or aggregates to build the roads or whatever? Right. He goes, you don't get it, man. He goes, this heart and soul stuff is all the woo shit that they're selling. And he goes, but at the end of the day, he goes, that's all great. God bless you, and go find that thing. He goes, but if you want to be truly wealthy, he goes, you have to find opportunities and capitalize on those opportunities. Do you think the guys who did Instagram, $1 billion in 18 months were passionate about taking photographs? Or do you think the people that, do coal are passionate about digging in the whole dirt, right? It's so interesting. So if you go back and look at the greatest titans of all industry ever, and he goes, well, it's interesting. He goes, once you create that windfall of seeking opportunity and capitalize in it, you can use that wealth to go do your passion projects. Use Elon Musk. Was he passionate about PayPal and creating? He sees an opportunity, capitalize, and then you use that to something else that he was really interested in thing. And now he's doing his ultimate passion project to go to Mars, right? And he goes, so if you look at it, reverse psychology, he goes, you got to build that prosperity so it gives you the opportunity to go live a purpose-filled life.
I think it's also a matter of like forecasting almost and seeing what's necessary for the future or what the next,
Look, a quarterback never throws the football where the wide receiver's standing, ever.
Right, where he's going. It's going to where he's going.
And until you have that viewpoint, so I won't go down that rabbit hole. But again, if you come hang out with me in my house for a day, your brain would go because every day we got people walking in here showing us what's not even next, but what's next. And it's so interesting where like last night, I think I got 2 hours sleep, but I was in bed for 10 hours because my brain was just going with the stuff these people are in my house showing me. I'm like, oh my goodness, we know nothing. And it's really, really interesting. But what also is cool is the opportunities are insane. And it's the people that can capitalize on what's coming next. Everyone waits till last minute. It's kind of like, I also noticed that people that are first to market, that used to be the big thing. And it's really not anymore. So, for example, since probably the 1950s, first to market, now not very good. There was always with a MySpace and Foursquare and all these different things way before a Facebook, but it's always the third, fourth down the line generation that really catapults it to the next level. And it was back to the passion thing. It's kind of interesting. One of my dear friends is the guy who invented Ugg boots, a $1 billion brand. And I said, how'd you get your business, how to grow? And he goes, man, we grinded. He goes, it was my baby. We grinded that thing to like 24 million bucks. I mean, we worked every single angle stitch, kept sleeping. He goes, everything until we got to $24 million. He goes, then we sold it to Deckers. A few years later, it became a $1 billion brand.
Wow.
I thought for myself for a second, again, because it wasn't their baby. They saw the opportunity rather thing. And if you go back and look at everything from McDonald's, look, Ray Kroc didn't invent McDonald's. He took something and saw an opportunity and created what it is. Colonel Sanders only got to so much. His two brothers bought it and created Colonel Sanders. You go down the list, almost everything is this way.
Sure.
And so it takes the emotion out of it. You know what I mean? But it's really an interesting observation.
I read something really fascinating a couple weeks ago about being the latecomer to an existing industry, because in that case, you can already see what's happening and what's going on. Everybody's already, done it and showing what their cards are. And you can come in as a late guy and say, well, I'm going to try something different and completely maybe stun the industry. And
it's funny. We're doing that in the movie industry right now. So I'm making my first major feature film. We start filming in April. I know nothing about making movies, right? So, but I got the founder of Make-A-Wish, his life story. So we're making to our first major feature film. And everyone says, oh, you got to spend, $100 million and all this crazy stuff. And I go, nah, I think for a few $100,000, we could pull this thing off if we did it right. And so I just went, there's so many young up and coming people. And 10 years ago is different. 4 years ago is different. 3 years ago was different. But now there's these Dragon red dot cameras that, you can rent for next to nothing, and you have the same equipment that all these movie studios, and now with even having a modern day laptop with all the editing, things have changed so dramatic. So you're going to see the face of it changing. Just like 20 years ago, if you wanted to publish a book, it was a big deal because you go through a publisher. Today, anyone can publish. Well, I see the movie industry going in that same direction, and we're going to capitalize on that thing in a big way.
You use the word grinding, and I love that, because that's like the dudes, like, you got to grind, and you're always having that conversation with the fellas. And I want to pull out your other book that you did, 3 Feet from Gold, which is a fantastic little story in the first chapter of Think and Grow Rich. And you did that book with Sharon Lechter, is that correct? And why do you think that people do stop and give up so close? And what is it that really separates that person that stops versus that person that keeps going?
The knowing. Yeah. So the people that know, they keep going. But it's the people that hope, wish, believe. They're the ones that, it's interesting. The worst deal we can do in life and business, it's called an if, when, then deal. And that means if this happens and when this happens, then this is the outcome. How many of those go through? And we all got 3 of those going on right now, that if this happens, when this happens, but those are so few and far between. Those are the home run grand slam if they happen to come together. But it's the ones where oh no, this makes sense. I'm going to do it. Those are the ones are your, those are the ones that keep you going. And I realize that, most people are following these crazy dreams and things of this nature, counting on if, when, then, rather than what they know. For example, when the gold miner gave up 3 feet away from the largest strike because he didn't know, but when R.U. Darby goes engineer says what happened, he says, oh no, it runs in a straight line. He just came and hit dirt and ran on the other side, go back where they goes dirt. I know, you go 90 degrees, pop back in. It was a knowing. That's what he did.
Right.
And unfortunately, most people don't follow their knowing. It's always their hope or wish or belief, and hope is not a strategy.
Greg, it's funny that you say that, because I have, in the last month, dialed in on a message that I've learned for myself as far as what I can give right now, because I can only give what I have and what I've been through. And it is that it's a knowing, but I take it a step further, and it's a knowing of who you are. When you have your identity dialed in and you've done the work and you've gone through the journey and your character is intact, nothing can stop you, because you know who you are. You're living in an authentic life from a place of
that goes down to a whole nother topic. That goes down to the self-worth stuff, where one of the biggest things, everyone I interview, how famous name drop I could do to you, everyone has self-worth issues. And yet I'm realizing that until people can step into their greatness, like Les Brown says, that's where the things start happening. So I bought a domain name that I'm getting ready to create an entire franchise around. It's called ownthatshit.com. And it's like, it's until you own it, until you step in and say, look, this is me. I might be who I am, and educated, or I got no job, but I like video games. Well, guess what? There's a calling out there for someone who's that talented at video games to be a tester. You got greatness no matter what it is. You just got to find what it is and own it and step in and absorb that thing. Again, work your strengths.
But it's a process, again, that, the hard part is there's so many moving pieces. But I like to get people very dialed in on that process of the journey, and the journey of self-discovery. Because we're certainly living the life that I think others have designed for us. And because of it, end up living up to a point where we're unsatisfied and we have regrets. And I'm sure you're very well aware of that in terms of the people that you've worked with, and maybe in your own personal life, maybe not. But let's talk about self-worth and more importantly, self-talk. So conversation that we're having with ourselves, how does somebody practice more positive self-talk and remove the negative conversation that they have with themselves?
I'm not a psychologist. Like it is like, I don't play those reindeer games. That's not for me. I'm not here to tell anyone any of that stuff. I will say this though. We are a reflection of the people we hang around the most, and our income, attitude, and lifestyle is the average of the group. You heard the cliche 1,000 times. Again, come to my circle. Could you hang out with me and my friends and have all this? I don't know if you can have that. It changes because our conversations change. Right. So the whole thing is your inside conversation will be a direct influence on the outside ones you're having with the people around you. So the whole thing is I hang around positive, solution searching people. There's challenges all around it, but we look at every one of those as an opportunity. Right. One of the interviews I did was a guy named Steve Wozniak, who did Apple computers, jobs. And I said, how did you and Steve have so much success? And he says, we just embraced our lack. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, we embrace what we didn't have, where everyone else runs from it. He goes, look, let's see if I can find something over here. He goes, when a microchip came out, I'll use this coin. He says, microchips came out, they were so expensive, we could only afford one chip. He goes, we're so excited at the opportunity. He goes, so Jobs sold his Volkswagen, I sold my calculator, we pulled our money and bought one chip. He goes, Hewlett-Packard was rich. They could go from point A to point B in a device with 20 chips because they had all the money of God. He goes, I had to pull away 5 and configure it to work, and I'd pull away 5 and get it to work. Finally, I could devise a way to go from point A to point B using our one chip. He goes, we weren't trying to be cool or unique or innovative. He goes, we could afford one chip. But by embracing that as an opportunity, I found the shortest, cleanest path and changed the way people do personal computing for the rest of the world, for the rest of their life. He goes, where could you be right now if you stop looking at something as your greatest challenge or obstacle, but it could just be your greatest blessing and opportunity in disguise?
Interesting. So because you're doing this new project and you've mentioned what got these people to prosperity, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the cost? What's the cost of an abundance mindset?
First of all, I didn't share yet what it takes. I told you what one guy said. Right. We agree or disagree. I'm just sharing with you one of the interviews.
Sure.
I've been doing interview after interview. Next week in Palm Springs, I've got a private mansion with these billionaires and 100-millionaire guys coming in. We're all getting together, and I'm just picking their brains to find this out. I'm going on the journey myself.
Right.
I'm on this quest, and I'm realizing the common denominators and then applying it. It's so funny. I just did a video upload just now, and People that don't know me, I like cool, fancy stuff like everybody. It's all, it's that shiny lifestyle. But I realize all these billionaires I'm hanging out with, none of them have that. None of them have Gucci watches, and none of them, not a single one of them. And so I went back and I went, man, I sold my $250,000 in cars just last week, and at least a $37,000 little SUV Mercedes. No big deal, but I saved $1,800 a month for something that just sits in my garage. And I then set up a vehicle where $1,800 automatically comes out of my account to an investment vehicle because I was going to spend it anyway. And I went, wow, how many of those one move things that we can do that will now go to generate wealth rather than I'm just spending it and it's going down the toilet. And I went, wow. And I started looking everything around me. And that's how these people think. It's a different mindset. And so for myself, that's where I'm going towards. And it's a journey. Progress, not perfection.
I love that. And listen, so let's talk about that. You just made a great point about where you are considering your success to where the billionaires are. Now let's imagine you're down here, you're trying to find wealth, you're trying to find a way to invest more. What does it take to get from, I'd say a lower income to, I guess most people know millionaire status. What's the difference in that gap? And what does it take for somebody to reach that millionaire status?
All right, I'm going to answer this, and then we can do one more, and I got to go, just so you know. Is Bob Proctor, back to my buddy here, gave me one of the greatest lines, and it's great. He says, find a way to get people to pay you money to do what you're already going to do. That changed my life. Get people to pay you money to do what you're already going to do. So for example, is there somebody out there that would pay money, I'll call it $50, to sit in your office right now in a chair right in front of you and watch you do this and learn how to do a podcast and have introductions to people? Would they? I'm asking you, would they?
Sure, of course, absolutely.
So you could make money doing what you're already doing,
right.
And everyone does. But most people don't look at it that way. So I found ways to get paid money to do what I'm already going to do. So for example, I climb mountains, I jump out of airplanes, I stomach caves, I drive Ferraris, I shoot machine guns, I do weird crap. So I started a adventure club called LUAC, Life's Ultimate Adventure Club, where people paid a boatload of money to join me. And once a year, we go on this whole journey and do all these crazy adventures. Now, I'm already going to go. But what happens is not only they pay my way, but I make a great income from doing what I'm already going to do. Now, again, if you're a video guy and you're an expert, how many people would pay money to sit and watch you learn double click, click, left click, whatever, to learn tricks and trade? Everyone's got a gift. Own that shit.
Sure. Love it. All right, before I ask you the last question, my man, I just want to take a minute to acknowledge you for your tremendous contribution and your desire to continue to grow and be of service for the entire community. 50 plus books, seminars, speaking online. You are certainly making an impact, and I value you and the time that you've given here. It's been short, but it's been very sweet and very content driven, which I appreciate. So keep up the good work, my friend. I look forward to all the future work. I look forward to seeing you and meeting you in person in the future. And we'll finish this off with me asking you my last and final question, which I ask every guest, and that's, what's your one message of inspiration, if you could package it in right now for our listeners and tell them, let's do this?
He keeps going back to the counsel thing, because that is the greatest gift that was ever given to me, is that if we spend our daily lives only seeking counsel, people that know what they're doing, rather than listen to everyone's opinion, that's when our life changes. It's so funny. I know you mentioned my event I do. It's called Secret Knock. And it's really interesting because people kept asking me, how do I meet your friends? Like, how do I hang out with these people? And I realized all these conferences, they bring in coaches and teachers and mentors and stuff like that. And that's cool. But I said, wouldn't it be cool to do an event where I actually bring in the person who did what everyone's talking about?
Right.
So like in May, I've got Tonino Lamborghini flying in from Italy. I've got the guy who created Chuck E. Cheese, where everyone said it was crazy, bring a rat into the restaurant business, and all these people that are actually doing it. Right. And if you surround yourself with folks that are getting the results you want, then ultimately you get the same results for yourself. The big question is, who could you start hanging out with today that is doing what you want to do so you can have a brighter tomorrow?
Sure. And it's funny because Eric, Mr. Awesome Swanson, are communicating every day, and we're into some exciting things. And it's perfect because you just said that. It's like, you know, and everything's been about surrounding yourself with the right people, and here we are, and continuing along on the journey and trusting the process, and you're going to get where you want to go. And dude, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, brother. You're a rock star, man. Keep up the good work, and I look forward to everything in the future, bud.
Hey, keep smiling. Thanks for having me on. Word out.
You got
Bye.
it.